telephonically. Jackie, you started yet? Okay. Telephonically, we have Liz Buttermore from the Herald, and we have Jennifer Warren, an alderman. Is there anybody else on that I missed? Okay, I guess not. Can y'all hear me?
Kind of. I can hear you.
Okay, I'll try to speak up. This is fairly an informal session. It is not where we're going to do a, this is a rough one. This is our first draft, I guess. It's an informal session. I'm going to go over a few things. I will tell you from the start, this is more of a bare bones budget. The comptroller has kind of told us that with everything going on, that we need to be conservative in our numbers, and if we're conservative in our numbers, we have to be conservative in what we spend. With that in mind, this is the first time since I have been mayor that I have not put a personnel increase as far as wages in this budget. There is, and I hate to say that, but there is no, at this time, I mean, we can discuss it, but there is no wage increase or salary increase in this budget for this year. Yes, except step raises. Now, step raises are something that are established and we have to do that, but other than step raises, there's no increases for personnel. It is a fairly bare bones budget. I'm going to go over, each one of you has a copy, I'm sure. I'm going to go over some of the things, and I will tell you that some of the numbers as far as our income, as far as our sales tax, if you look at up towards the top, we did cut that back a little bit. And we don't know what will happen. We hope things will recover quickly, but we also know that, some of the sales for places are down. We have restaurants that aren't even open right now, places that are not in business. Hopefully that will recover before this budget year, but we're not sure. So we did cut a little bit on what our local sales tax would be. That's towards the top. But then if you get into some of this, I wanted to kind of go over some of the revenues from over on the right side proposed. And if you look at those, the safety grant, that is something we get every year from our insurance company. We feel like we'll get that. The $225,000 from rural development for paving, that we've already been assured that we will get that, so we're not worried about that. We have put in $25,000 for a grant we may get for the playground. We're not sure about that, but as you're aware, anything we put into our budget, we have to put it in so we can spend it. If we don't get it, we don't spend it, but we do have to put it in our budget. $150,000, that's the ongoing project where we are trying to acquire some property that's in our floodway for the FEMA property. And so that's ongoing. If you look, there's $58,000. Governor Lee has given that. It's a one-time thing. It's kind of based on your population. For instance, I think the county is going to be getting about $500,000, but we're going to be getting $58,000. We have checked, and we can use that towards our portion of the paving.
So we can use that as part of our payment for the rural development grant?
Right. So in other words, that would be our match. So that's what we're proposing there. The $50,000 in the yellow there, that is for, we're hoping that we might be able to get a grant for the fire department. Now, we don't know that, but as I said, we have to put it in order to take it out. When we do all of that, in other words, another thing about this year, like last year, I think we bought a couple of trucks out of our budget. We did some things like that. Other than the paving, and if we get the grant for the playground, we do not have anything in the budget for the acquisition of any equipment or anything in our general. Now, when it comes to water and sewer, which we'll get into in a minute, we do have a little bit in there. But like I say, it's kind of a leaner year, but we have bought, here in the last few years, we have bought quite a bit of equipment. So when I talked to Philip about it, he felt like we were in pretty good shape as far as what we have, so he's not too concerned about it. that, because, you know, as you're aware, we've got bought several trucks in the last few years. We've got the Mini X, new backhoe, so we feel like we're in pretty good shape. So, if you look at that, I'm gonna move on, and then we'll talk about our totals in just a minute. But what I'd like to move on to is, Chief Moore had put in some requests, and I'm gonna let him go over that. Most of what he has put in the budget is, pretty much, he did just some small increases, but, which I can let him talk about, but as you know, we're going to have to send a couple gentlemen to the academy. Chief Moore, you wanna just go ahead and address that?
Employee education and training, 48, $4,000. With, COVID-19, the academy is shut down, not sure when it's gonna start back, and it's $3,500 a piece for that, each one to go. I don't feel like we're gonna need to bill for that until after the budget passes, so that's why the big increase there. That'll leave us $2,000 for training for the rest of the officers for the year. Let's see. Repairing maintenance motor vehicles, for 4,000 to 5,000. We got a couple vehicles needing tires, that's basically just one set of tires. And then the gas and oil, just increased, 10% on that, to 14 to 16,000.
So he hasn't really added a whole lot. The main thing is, sending the two gentlemen to the academy, which at the rate we're going with everything, and then not having the academy, it won't be billed until this next budget year. So that's where that is. And if you'll notice in red, there is a difference in his budget of about $9,000 over last year. But like I say, the main part is $7,000 is sending the gentleman to the academy. So that's the bulk of it. If you move on to the next page, I'm gonna let Danny talk about this, and your page, I think Danny, we spoke some more this afternoon, so there's a few more updates on there, but I'm gonna let Danny talk about that just a little bit as far as the fire department.
Well, after seeing our revenues and the situation we're in, we went ahead and immediately cut the salary line item back to where it was, cutting 15,480 out of that. Professional services, what we pay for physicals and fit testing, respirator fit testing for all the firefighters, we're gonna cut that back another $1,500. And fire hydrants, this year we don't have any immediate needs on fire hydrants. I think we've got two that we're gonna replace on insurance claims, so we cut that 4,000. So we was able to cut right at $21,000 from where our proposed budget was, bringing it down to $108,270. About a $7,000 difference from last year. We did add some data processing fees and dues in there. We pay our fees and dues out of our supply line item currently. And data processing has gotten to the point where we're having to get fire reporting software, so we're using federal government's online software. It's a nightmare to deal with. And we do currently use some software for layering on our dispatching, but that will be covered under that.
Do y'all have any questions for,
That's
well,
one.
either of these? I don't think I gave them the opportunity to ask
So
questions.
that's not what he's telling me, right?
Your notes is just not written on there.
Yeah, see, we did some updates this afternoon, well,
You
this,
wanna go down one by one?
we can do that, okay. Well, Danny, did you wanna go down through it line by line on what you adjusted, or?
Yeah, so the first adjustment was under the salary line item. You can subtract 15,480 from that.
So that's still putting a 2,000 and something dollar in there?
No, man, that's leaving it at the current 17,200.
Yeah, so if you kinda go before the yellow line, the blue line is what you'll be going by on some of these.
But last year wasn't it $11,000?
No,
It was 17.
Yeah, it's been 17,200 for 2 years now.
Yeah, it's, what it is on your estimated 2019-2020, is that what you're looking
I
at?
guess it's not.
Okay, that, if you'll look, that is from July first till March.
Okay.
Cause we're in April, so those totals are at the end of March, so you've got April, May, June. So what
Okay.
these columns and some of these numbers, that if you look at them, I should have explained that, but some of these numbers, what we derived them at on incomes and expenses is based on what we had
Right.
spent from, July first to March 31st, so you have 9 months, so you divide it by 9, or you
Right.
multiply that number by 12 after you divide by 9, and that gives you what you think you'll spend. So, but anyway, the 17.2, the 11.85877 is up to the end of March, so you have 3 more months there.
This is exactly what we spent till March 30th.
Right.
Gotcha.
And that's why, like, there's a couple line items where you'll see a negative number, and you're thinking, why is that not? Well, that's because the insurance usually comes due in June, so we have not spent that money on insurance yet. So that's what that is. So if you kind of look at the blue column right before the yellow column,
Mm-hmm.
really the only ones that are changing, and that's what Danny is saying, is he's omitted the raises. So then when you go down to the next one, go ahead, Danny, it would be the education and training, I believe.
The education and training, proposing raise of from 5,000 to 6,000, mostly because most of our, training that's required for on-site is requiring the firefighters to travel, which is adding hotel expenses, much more than what they were in the past. 3,000 proposed for the, professional services, cutting that back down to 1,500 where it originally was. Like I said, that's what we pay for firefighter physicals and respirator fit tests out of. Maintenance, proposing 7,000. 2 of our engines need, front steer tires, they're about $650 each. Supplies, proposing 13,000 from 9,000. We have about 20 SCBA bottles that are out of date, need to be replaced. One of those bottles is $800, so we're gonna try to get as many as we can, put them in service.
Is that something you use all the time?
Yes, one is required for every riding position in the truck with 1 spare bottle, and, 1 brand new SCBA is $8,600.
So how long have those been out of date?
The spare bottles have been out of date for 3 months. But we meet NFPA standard on having an air pack for every riding position and a spare bottle on each truck for those air packs.
So you do have current ones that are with you when you need them, that are
Yeah.
not out of date?
Yes.
So
Yes,
this
will be.
money would be buying for a spare bottle?
So we have spare bottles on every truck for each air pack that is carried on the truck, which are approaching the end of life cycle, but we do have 1820 that have already reached their end of life cycle. In 2012 or 2014, I can't remember, city purchased 12 new or refurbished SCBA's $14,000 with a life expectancy of 8 to 10 years. Like I said, that was 2012, 2014. So we're needing to start a replacement on those bottles. The SCBA's themselves are doing fine. Regular maintenance has been conducted on them, so.
So an SBA, I mean, I'm not a fireman, so you're gonna have to give me what that is.
Self-contained breathing apparatus.
Okay.
Air pack that they wear inside the fire will not be like.
Something very useful when they're inside fire.
That's what I need to know. I need to know what it is, and I want it up to date, so I wanna know what.
Yeah, so last year we attempted to get the FEMA grant, they had an assistance
That's what
firefighter
you're gonna
grant,
use those for.
and we've been denied year after year after year. Big long story, big situation years past, but we keep getting denied, and to replace everything we have with new is about $138,000. Somewhat unbeatable force we can do with refurbished SCBA's that are still within the NFPA
In your
criteria.
guidelines.
Within the guidelines. So that's what the $50,000 grant, hopefully we can get that on that. The only other changes, fire hydrants were normally 9,000, we're taking 4,000 out of that. So that will be cut down to 5,000, and then of course we're adding the reporting software and fees and dues.
you said that was for something that you don't have now, or something you use that's out of date?
Yeah, currently we don't have any reporting software, any tracking software on
So
certifications.
how do you do that now?
Spreadsheet.
So you just wanna do it electronically?
Everything has to be done electronically. Everything we do is reported to the federal government through, NFIRS, National Fire Incident Reporting System. And currently, the federal government does offer an online system for us to report.
Right, so that's how you're doing it now.
That's how we're doing it now. It's constantly down. The internet around here doesn't keep up with it.
But you, I mean, even if you buy a program and put it on there, you're still gonna have the internet.
Oh, yeah, but it allows us to upload it at certain times instead of having to do a 20-minute long power report 6 times.
So it's dividing the program.
Yes. And then the fees and dues, like I said earlier, we normally pay that out of our supply line item. We pay fees and dues to the state, Fire Chiefs Association, NFPA, and the Tennessee Firemen's Association.
With the changes he's just mentioned, it would increase his budget by about $7,000, once you take out the $50,000 grant. So I know the line item looks a little bit higher, but if you take out the $50,000 grant, he is increasing his budget by about $7,000, and the main part of that is, fees and dues and reporting software, as well as, like I say, a little bit more money to buy the SCBA's. So of course, he's reduced a couple other line items to try to assist in that too. So, are there any questions? And when it comes to the budget, like I say, we've kind of done a linear budget this year, and so in the general fund, these are the 2 people that have requested to have a little bit more money, so they're here. That's their request, and like I say, they trimmed them back a little bit more. I'm sure they would love to have a little bit more, but, and as I said before, and I guess I'll go ahead and mention, we did cut back our, numbers as far as what we think our revenue will be. So in order to balance this budget with what you see, and it may not be on your piece of paper because we did do a couple more numbers, but if you consider what Danny has asked for, what, Chief Moore has asked for, Chief Moore, I guess I should be nicer to him, but anyway, I feel like I know them on a first name basis. They're pretty good guys. So if you look at what they've done or what they're requesting, what we have looked at, what we figured out that, we can balance this budget and have a surplus of $623.75 if we use some, and if y'all remember, we, in years past have said something like we did the paving project last year, and we said, okay, we'll take it out of Maple Street account. We've never done that. We just pay for it out of our regular paying for it. But this year, in order to balance the budget, we do have, I think it's $58,000 that we would take out of the Maple Street account. And that would give us a surplus of $1,623.
So you,
Which, if you think about it, yes, it's kind of, we've looked at lean on the numbers. It may be possible that, I mean, when you look at it, if you like say, for instance, the leanest number we cut is if you look at, local sales tax on your first page, 31,610. The actual in 2018, 2019 was $446,000. We have cut that back to $400,000. So there's $46,000 right there. If things aren't as bad as what we think they may be. So I feel fairly comfortable in saying that we have a lot of money out of it by taking that from the Maple Street fund account. But we may not need to use it. But this way, we have a balanced budget with what Danny and Mark have requested. We have a balanced budget for our general fund doing that. Do you have any questions, thoughts, comments, or, and like I say, we'll be doing this again next Tuesday.
so all we're gonna do is take what we call our Maple Fund, Maple Street Fund.
But overall, we have reduced our revenues by about $80,000.
Yeah.
Just over $80,000. So when it's kind of it's just a guesstimate on what's going to happen as a result of maybe a slower economy with the virus, so that's kind of what we're doing, so.
Sounds to me like it's a budget that we can live with, wouldn't push them a big time.
It would not, and if the economy isn't quite as bad as what we think it may be, then we'll have more money. If is, then we still have a balanced budget. And of course, this is not going to continue forever, so by next year, because I'll be honest, the thing that hurts me the most is not putting any money or not allocating any money for raises, because I have never done that before. And I think that bothers me more than anything, but,
We need to take care of, the people that work for us are wonderful people.
and of course, we have another budget meeting next week. I mean, this is something you can take home with you and think about. And if y'all have any ideas, I mean, that's why we have these meetings, is so we can go through this. Because like I say, the one thing that kind of bothers me the most is not any raises. But I understand we kind of in lean time, so maybe, but that's something for y'all to consider and think about. But that is the general fund. And now if you don't have any questions, we'll kind of move on to the water and sewer. And there again, under water and sewer, we looked at everything. Of course, you got your source of supply, and you have your which is your water, and then you have your sewer. And when you look at this, if you've had a chance to look at this, the water currently, with what we proposed, and there again, we haven't really proposed doing much in water. We have looked at, if you look at your sewer part, we have put in $35,000 for the new grinder pump. We need a grinder pump. We're having some issues with stuff coming into the sewer plant, and it's stopping up our pumps where they're trying to pump. So especially with us having so much water, but it seems like apparently there's more stuff that should not be in the system, and I don't really know how it's getting in there, but like Philip was talking today, there's plastics and things like that that you would not think about being in the sewer system, but it's getting in there. So we need this grinder pump to grind it up, so that's not stopping up our screens and having issues with that. That's about $35,000. So, and of course, there's the money that's put in there for the new sewer plant. Of course, we've got our grant part for some of that too. So, but when you look at our, if you flip back, like I say, we didn't really add anything to water, but when you look at water, we do have a deficiency of right at $92,000. That negative. But when we look at this, and when the auditor looks at it, he looks at water and sewer as a whole. And if you flip forward to the sewer, even when you add the grinder pump of $35,000, we have a surplus of $115,000 in sewer and some change. So if you take water and sewer and you realize that water has a negative amount of $92,000, sewer has a positive amount of $115,000, the offset between water and sewer, you still have $23,000, a little over $23,000 to the good. So the budget looks like it will work at that, even though water is in the negative. And I will say that if we can ever get, which we're getting closer, we're moving closer, we're supposed to have a letter, which we forgot to talk about today. But anyway, did they ever get that letter back to us? Okay, we're close. totally off subject, but we're still working on the sewer plant. But if we ever get it out to bid and get it rolling, which we will, we may need to look at, and we have been told by Vance, who is the one that's providing us money, that we need to get a rate study. So that's probably something we're going to have to do for next year. So, and I'm not saying do it this year because, and that's another thing, you know, we talk about, wanting to do things and looking at things, but with everything going on, I have a hard time saying, oh, we need to raise rates, we need to raise taxes, we need to do that, because I just don't feel like now is the time to do any of that. That's my personal opinion. But we do need to look at doing a rate study for water and sewer next year. But if you look at the numbers, like I say, between water and sewer combined, we're to the good about $23,000. So that budget is doable. Like I say, we didn't put anything extra in there. Once again, I think last year we bought a truck out of the water department, or spent one out of water and one out of sewer. We did not do that, but we're in pretty good shape, other than we need the grinder pump. And of course, we need a total new sewer treatment plant that we're working on, but other than that, we're in decent shape. We have, if you go down through there line by line, there are, you know, money set aside to do maintenance and do things that we need to do. So we feel like we're pretty good there. Do y'all have any questions about that, or any thoughts that you would like to add?
So I'm just a curious question, because everybody's trying, you know, with the COVID, and we are running the utilities, so they can defer their payments, right?
Are you saying that
Like me as a customer, if I can't pay you can't turn them off anymore, right?
they don't want you to? And they have
Yeah,
they've asked us not to put penalties on this month.
Yeah, you can't put penalties on there, and you can't, is this for like 3 months maybe?
I can't remember.
Have you heard? Okay.
I think, but this month they've asked.
Don't spread the word.
No.
Just don't
Oh,
spread
I'm not, but that's what I
Oh,
was.
it's okay, we're on YouTube.
I'm just wondering how it's going to affect
I mean,
our payment process.
Well, I will tell you that, as I've said, this will not last forever. And if you're trying to take advantage of the city, at some point your water will be turned off.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
What? Sure.
According to the comptroller's office, the comptroller will tell you water is not free, and they will expect payment eventually. They will expect you to make it up. You may be deferred 2 or 3 months, but you have got to make it up.
It has to be paid, and when after we get through everything, we're expected to pay it. So
Right.
it shouldn't affect our bottom line.
I mean, we may, you know, while we get through this, where there may be some allowances made, but at some point, when this is over with, your water will be turned off if you don't pay.
See, it's not expected you to pay, you will pay.
No, you will. I mean,
Sooner or
I
later.
just don't think some people understand.
they will, but you will pay, you'll have to.
The comptroller's office says that even if we make a mistake in billing in the office and we undercharge somebody, we're supposed to go back and make them pay the difference, even though it's our fault.
Yes.
The comptroller will
We
be
had a meeting
ugly
about
about it.
it, yeah.
I just think some people aren't understanding that, and I don't.
Well, I mean, I would hope that for your own sake, because yes, you know, it's my understanding that, like, for instance, Greater Dixon may not be shutting people off, but eventually your bills will roll in, and if you don't try as an individual, if you don't try to keep them up to date and paid, you will be overwhelmed and never be able to pay everything. And you will be sitting in the dark with no water and no gas. I mean, they're not gonna do it forever. You may get by within a month or two, but you'll be sitting in the dark.
Right.
You know,
They may even charge interest.
Or you could.
That's a thought.
well, I mean, eventually they'll be able to put the penalties back.
Well,
on.
so I would say, after it's all done, you need to be able to put your hand.
Everything gets taken back along, you pay.
So I would strongly encourage people to prioritize
Keep it.
and keep up as much as possible. That would be that's why we're leaning our budget so we can keep up.
Right.
And I expect that other people need to do the same. That would be my thoughts on that. That is true. If you're on a fixed income, it's not changing. So if you could pay it before, you can pay it, should be able to. But anyway, back on topic here, are there any questions about the water and sewer? If not, you know, like I say, this is kind of just a committee work session type thing as far as, you know, putting together a budget. We presented this to you, Angie and I have, probably more Angie, but we've been working diligently and so y'all are lucky, y'all only have one copy. I've got 4 or 5 copies here, where we keep changing things, but we finally printed out one copy that we felt was suitable for y'all. But, are there any questions about anything? Any thoughts?
I haven't thought of the, of salary. I think that, you know, we need to consider, because I've been in a position like you ladies has before, you know, where you didn't get a raise and you out here busting your butt.
Yeah, I'm like, Paul and that too, we're very fortunate to have the people that work for
Yes.
us. And they all do a wonderful job.
Yes, they do.
I would like to see if we could do something, maybe, we can maybe look at it.
You do or don't?
I don't think we'll get one this year, due to the fact that everything right now is low. Gas is extremely cheap. Food may be a little high. But everything else-
Food is high right now.
But, I mean, if you had a number in mind, what are you thinking, like 2% or 1%, or would you like for us to have something at the next meeting that we could show you? Because we can do that too. You know, that's why we have this. Next Tuesday, we can come in with, some numbers.
So we'll still have our adjusted ones, right? That comes out every year. So the adjusted on our police officer, or step up, or step.
Yes, some people are eligible for, 9 people are eligible for
I
step
said it would
raises.
be if they were eligible.
I think 9 people are eligible for step raises. Now, I may be wrong on that, and I put her on the spot.
And then last year, do you remember at the top of the head what we gave across the board?
2%.
I think it was 2%.
I was gonna say 2.5, so it was 2.
There's 8. There's
8
8.
people will be getting step raises. And then, yes, last year was 2%.
I don't understand, if you're 20 years.
1993.
Okay.
I don't know why that number sticks out, but it is 93, isn't it?
27 years.
How many?
27.
7 years in 93.
If you'd asked me about anybody else, I probably wouldn't know.
You do a good
No,
job.
that's not true. I can tell you about some of them. I think Philip's been here 42 years.
So Philip's been here long.
In September will be 42.
You know, I actually have that piece of paper right here. Yeah. So if you would like, we can do a couple numbers. We can do, something with a 2% raise if you want to. That's up to y'all. And, you know, we could at least give us an idea of where we're at. I have to do some crunching, figure out where we'll get the money from. We'll definitely look at it.
Do some number crunching, see what it would come out to be, 1% versus 2% or whatever.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll look at 1% to 2%.
And look and see if we can afford it.
Well, that would be
Based
the,
on the economy, the way she's rolling along now at 0.
and it is scary. I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. I mean, you know, when I look at, I may have mentioned it earlier, but when I look around and see the, certain restaurants that are closed, I mean, they're not bringing in any sales tax dollars for this community. But I see other places, Clagger's must be selling toilet paper like there's no tomorrow.
They're selling baking powder, couldn't get baking powder. I don't know about baking powder.
There's certain things you just cannot get. So I know somebody's selling something, but I also know that overall things,
Liquor stores doing good.
oh yeah, they are. They're having to use that for hand sanitizer.
There you go.
But seriously, I do know some things seem to be doing well, but I also know other things. I've talked to people. I have friends in different communities, different areas, business people that are not doing as well. So it's, and I wish I could have something where I could shake a ball and look into, see the future 3 or 4 months from now, it'd make it so much easier to do this budget, 6 months from now. I'm hoping the lasting ramifications from this are not that long, not that harsh, but I just don't know.
Even your medical facilities nowadays, they're not doing as much work as they did.
No, I was talking to a person the other day, and she said that, I guess the well people are afraid to go there.
You just don't go there anymore.
No, unless they have to, they're not going.
My cardiologist, he said, I really don't have to show up in June if I don't want to.
It is a medical, between here and Dover, I can say which one, that, there's, the patients, please send us somebody. I mean, people scared to go to the doctor.
Well, I have someone that works at or know someone, I don't have, but I know someone that works at a facility, and she's concerned she's gonna get laid off because nobody's coming in.
Some of them already couldn't make me off.
And so, I mean, and so when you look at that, we don't know what we're gonna be 3 or 4 or 5 months down the road. I hope that we're rolling along, and I don't want, like I say, I don't wanna be panicking, I just wanna be concerned and maybe a little conservative this year that is not normally what I feel like the city of Erin does a good job with what we have. We've got good input from our employees, we have a good board, we have good people in the office to help us do that, or help me do this stuff, but this year, like I say, I feel like more conservative than what I normally am.
And it's a smart thing to do, I mean, everybody should be thinking about it.
I'm with you.
Okay, you want to eat? I gotta stay home and cook.
You don't have to stay home and cook, they sell pizza right down the street.
I eat pizza every day.
And subs, they got subs down there.
I'm shameless, I shouldn't use this for personal gain, I gotta shut up.
Your business is reduced by probably a third, and I'm just a guess.
I've been fortunate, I am down, and that's another thing, that's an indicator I look at, of course, I don't know how long, but I've been down a little bit, but not that bad, not what I thought I could be. However, I have spoken, to a person that has the same type store I have in another city, and he is down big time.
Yeah, the only thing is going up now is the funeral homes. The guy in New York, he said he's got 3 of them, he said he gets a call about every 2 minutes, gets 2 calls about every minute.
My niece that lives in Michigan, they sent us a picture where this hospital is stacking them up because the morgues are still.
Yeah, they're doing that in New York too,
Went wrong business.
but, well,
I don't want to be in it, I feel that we can.
I tell you what, I'm a happiness facilitator, and I think I make people happy by cooking pizza, so that's what I'm gonna do.
And I feel good eating.
Thank you.
And I gotta stop, I'm doing shameless plugs, but anyway, back on track here. Do y'all have any questions? We talked about doing looking at some numbers for a 1% and a 2% increase on salaries. Are there any other thoughts that y'all have, any concerns, anything that you feel like I need to come back next week and look at more? And I will also say, take these home with you, look at them. If you have any questions, Angie is in the office, if you want to call me, that's fine. We'll talk about it, if you have something you'd say, well, I see this now, I went home, looked at this, I see this, I would like to address this, just tell us and we will have more information for you next Tuesday. But if there are no questions, go ahead.
We'll make the changes that we talked about and send you a new one in your email tomorrow.
And that way it gets what we currently have, and we'll start working on the salaries. And like I say, if you have any other questions, any thoughts, comments, that's what we have these for, and we'll come back next Tuesday and look at it again. And I do appreciate y'all's time. Any other questions? If not, I'll let y'all run off.
It's a wrap.
And there you go. Thank you, Jackie.
And you guys